Welcome to Coffee and Tea with SCG, a podcast from the industry experts at SCG Advertising and PR. We are a full-service, women-owned agency that offers advertising, public relations, recruitment marketing, and association management. In this season, we'll be chatting with some members of our team about their specialties. So grab your coffee and your tea, and let's brew up a good conversation.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Tea with SCG. I'm your host, Maddie Trimino, Account Coordinator at SCG Advertising and Public Relations, and I'm joined by Mike Cherenson, Executive VP of PR at SCG Advertising and Public Relations. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Maddie. How are you?
I have my first question ready for you.
Let's go for it.
Do you prefer coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay, and how do you take your coffee?
I've evolved into a black coffee drinker.
Wow, that's tough.
You know what? I made the move, and I really appreciate the taste of coffee now. Like, it was masked behind all the other stuff, so now I can appreciate good coffee.
Okay, as somebody who likes their coffee as a dessert, I can't get behind the black coffee, but I applaud you for that.
I evolved. I wasn't there originally, but
Right.
I've evolved.
Okay, good to know. So, a more serious question. Explain for our listeners what your position is here at SCG.
I am Executive Vice President of Public Relations, and I lead the public relations group here at the agency. And I also am part of the entire leadership team and just help to guide the agency to ongoing success.
Wonderful, and that you do. So how long have you been at SCG then?
Well, that's a complicated question. Officially, as an employee for about 34 years, but I've been here my entire life.
And do you want to explain why you've been here your entire life a little bit?
So my dad founded the agency in 1958. So when I was a kid, I was brought to the agency as I doodled ABCs on news release paper. And as every other kid in school had some kind of Trapper Keeper folder, I had a press kit folder. So I've been raised around the agency and the agency life since the very beginning. And so it's been a great ride.
That's wonderful. And what services does PR offer?
Here at SCG, we talk a lot about the PESO model, the paid, the earned, the shared, and the owned. And in terms of public relations, we kind of own the earned space and also, kind of share the shared space, if you will, with our other teammates. But definitely we own the earned space. And that it certainly includes traditional offerings like media relations, but also includes thought leadership, crisis communications, special events, community relations, media training, influencer outreach, to some degree government affairs, I think I know the community affairs, internal communications. So we really kind of, our group owns the earned media, but we obviously work in collaboration with our other teammates here, yourself included. And then we also do shared media, content development, mostly social, but, any form of communication to, build those relationships, which is really the key to, organizational success.
Yeah, definitely a broad scope. We
Yes.
offer a lot for sure.
Yes.
So just to touch back to your family and your roots, your father founded the agency as the Cherenson Group in 1958. Did you feel called to join the family business?
I originally, first of all, as a kid, I actually wrote in seventh grade that I want to be the Zamboni driver at the Ranger game. So that was my original intent, to be the Zamboni driver at the Ranger game. But
I don't blame you.
That was not to be. And then in college, I thought I wanted to run political campaigns. So I was a politics major, went for my master's in political management. And I found, while I appreciate my political training and what I learned there, political campaigns are about getting 50% plus one of the vote, which but I'm more, why can't we get 100? Why can't we build a big tent? Why can't we bring people in? And so I really appreciate kind of being more a big tent person, not just trying to find who I need to win and, the heck with everybody else. So I found that, that PR was just a good fit for who I am. I'm a connector by trade. That's my whole kind of being is one of a connector, of a communicator, relationship builder. It kind of fit my personality. So that's how I found myself here.
That's great.
So, but it was never, again, my original intent to be that Zamboni driver going round.
It's
and
never
round
too
and
late,
round. That's true. That's
I heard they're looking for drivers, so.
I would love that.
Do you think you use anything that you learned in your political background in college now today?
Well, absolutely. And I think one thing that training taught me is the strategy. I mean, I think because they have a very, very defined goal, I need to get 50% plus one on a specific day. It's very strategy driven. driven. Whereas PR, certainly we are strategic in what we do, but it's a much wider lens, and it's but I think I learned that was important. Also understanding politics, how things work, how to pull the levers of government, how, politics is who gets what, when, where, and how. And I think everybody in business needs to understand who gets what, when, where, and how. Absolutely. And so that was certainly a key thing that I learned, and I continue to use today.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I'm going to take it back a little bit. How has PR changed since you started working compared to today?
Well, it's always been about connecting people and ideas and building those strategic relationships. So our objective has remained the same, but the tools we use are different. Obviously, the speed and pace of communication has changed rapidly. We use different tactics and tools to reach people. The ability to write, to be able to craft a narrative, to tell stories, to reach that overall objective of connecting people and ideas and building those strategic relationships has remained the same. But the speed and pace and the diversity of methods in which we use to do that has certainly changed. And I do think another thing that's changed is on the reactive front. I do think things have become more polarized. I think, there's this cancel culture. It's become a much more hostile information environment. It's not necessarily a welcoming information environment out there. And I think that has changed dramatically. Not that it ever was, but it's gotten worse. The dis and misinformation, and social media and the algorithms have fueled that. But so the information environment is not as conducive to building those relationships and connecting people. I think there's these conflict entrepreneurs, the attention economy. People are now rewarded for simply just getting attention.
Yeah, that's true.
And that, I think it's changed the way everybody's operated, and even small things like. Back in when I started, the newspapers would run an article, and they really never knew how many people were reading that article.
Right.
They knew what their subscriptions were and their circulation, and maybe they would know by the number of letters to the editor they would get, or maybe a couple phone calls. But they were really just running on what they assumed were the needs of the community, etc. But now the media are getting immediate data, and so they're almost writing to scratch the itch, not to address some of the bigger, bolder issues. So I think it's drawn the media now into these kind of like what's going to get the attention economy. There are reporters doing amazing work, and they continue to do important work. But I do think a lot of the media environment has been sucked into that attention world because they get that immediate feedback. If you're a reporter now, you know how many hits, how many likes, how many shares, and you're no different than anybody else. You're driven by that appetite. I think the reporters, 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have that feedback. So they was more about what they thought the community needed to hear and what discussions. And I think it was a little healthier environment than it is today.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think even just growing up in it, that instant gratification is a killer. I think it's a huge downfall in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So with that being said, how do you foresee PR evolving in the next 5 years?
It's going to change dramatically. So much of the focus was how are we going to get the message out? And I think to some degree, it's gotten easier. I mean, there's so many channels now, and now you have to obviously select which one is the right channel. I think the challenge is going to be focused on the receivers of the message and how do we help them navigate this chaotic information environment? What we can do to help them be better consumers of news and information. I think the role of strategic counselor is going to be more important, helping clients navigate this complexity, helping clients navigate the chaotic world that we now live. So I think that role of strategic counselor, so much time and effort used to be put in crafting the message and picking the channels and getting it through the channel to the right people. And listen, that's still going to be important, and we're still going to need people with skill and knowledge and ability to do that. So I don't want to belittle the importance or role of that, but I do think it's gotten a little easier, and AI will certainly improve that. But I don't think anything's going to replace helping organizations with their judgment and making good decisions, and also helping consumers be able to kind of see through the fog of the just amidst the chaos of it all and to be able to be better consumers. So I do think it's just going to be more strategic, I think, and more targeted towards helping both parties aid informed decision making. Really, I think it's really aiding decision making, helping the clients make better decisions, helping consumers, the people receiving the information, weed through all what's going on, and for them to make better decisions. I think all the channels have gotten just so corroded and filled with noise, and it just, at the end of the day, you scratch your. I think people are exhausted.
Yeah,
I think people are exhausted. They're information overload. And it's not only just pure information, but it just seems like it's just
oversaturated.
Yes, it's just a lot. I think it's a lot for people.
I agree. And I'm glad you actually mentioned AI, because that was a perfect segue to my next question, which would be, how is artificial intelligence changing the way that PR professionals like yourself work? Is it making it easier, harder, and different?
Both, all.
Yeah.
I think certainly, I use it every day to help craft messages and fine-tune messaging. We certainly use it to help disseminate messaging. We use it to understand audiences better, to have more information at our fingertips. But it's also made it more complicated. We can't always, right now, the way it is now, we can't always trust that information. And so I think that's a huge problem. The information coming in, we don't know how accurate it is. There's a lot of falsehoods being bred on using AI. And I do worry whether we're building a communication environment on efficiency and not resiliency. In other words, we're going to be so consumed with how fast and quick, and I can get this done so quickly and get it out so fast and so easy and all these kind of things, and it sounds great, but is it the right message? It still comes down to what do you say and who do you say it to? And that still takes strategy. That AI lacks judgment. AI doesn't know ethics. AI at this point doesn't know right from wrong. There's a story that I heard about this grandmaster in Asia played an AI computer in this game, and right now it's escaping me the game that they played, but it's infinite moves in this game, and came down to the last move, and the AI made a move that no one would ever make ever, and the grandmaster was insulted and walked out. It was so insulted by that move. How dare the computer? It was so like out of the ordinary. It was like it couldn't believe it, and the AI won. But the interesting thing was the AI made that decision not because of what it knew, but because of what it didn't know. It didn't know ethics. It didn't know norms. It didn't know how someone else would perceive it. And that's the danger of it. It doesn't know how someone will perceive things. It could, maybe guesstimate. And that is the benchmark of what we do. The intangible assets in which we work are things like credibility, trust, relationships. And I don't think AI really understands those yet. So while it could help assemble words, it could help, do all the mechanical things, it doesn't really understand those intangibles, the human nature. And I still think humans are going to play, at least for now, a huge role. And I just fear we're going to fall into this trap of being intoxicated by the speed and pace and the ease and all this. Oh my God, it's great. And don't get me wrong, it's cool as heck, and I use it every day. But I think there's a time and a place.
Absolutely. I don't think AI will ever replace that human connection either. Or at least I hope it doesn't.
I agree. Believe me.
The day that happens will be a very scary day. And you talked a little bit about how with AI comes some of that disinformation or misinformation, and things can be misconstrued. And anyone that knows you knows that you're passionate about that topic in itself with misinformation. What do you think is the single most important thing that people should be concerned about when it comes to misinformation and disinformation?
Well, I think you've got to be a better consumer of news and information. I think you've got to be somewhat skeptical, and that doesn't mean you should lack trust, but you've got to verify what you see. You don't put anything in your mouth when you go to a restaurant. Maybe you do, but you do want to make sure that people should be trying to eat healthy foods and putting healthy things in their body. So why wouldn't you do the same thing with information? And I think you've got to diversify your media diet. Don't consume just one form or one ideology. I think you've got to verify what you read. I think you've got to be able to put things in context. I think you've got to be able, humans have to learn to deal with ambiguity. You may not know the answer to everything. everything. I think that is a huge problem. As humans, we just want to know everything. So when we don't, we start building up these conspiracies in our mind. We start, oh, they must have done that because they really don't like me or whatever that is. The other thing that's really interesting is strategic ignoring. In most of human history, we needed more information to make decisions. Whether it was like, is the saber-toothed tiger really going to eat me? Is it behind the wall? Where is it coming from?
Right.
Or where's my next piece of food coming from? You were trying to gather as much information as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now we have the opposite problem. Now there's so much information coming in. Now we've got to be able to ignore stuff and just be able to to focus on the signal and ignore the noise. And learning how to do that is key, I think. And I think the one word the key to all of this is humility. I think people need to know, I don't know everything. I've got to be curious. I've got to be open-minded. I've got to be okay with the things I don't know. I've got to be willing to learn from other people. I think if we can be more humble, I think that is like a magic pill. I mean, I hate to say it, but just a simple humility, like maybe I don't know everything.
Right. Goes a long
maybe
way.
That's maybe maybe my in-group isn't always right. Maybe the news sources I use are not always perfect. Maybe the candidates I follow are somewhat flawed. And that doesn't mean, and by the way, the other thing within that whole soup is that multiple things can be true at one time. I think for some reason we don't want to do that. And that's why I think the practice of PR has to help the consumers of news and information develop these skills so they can weed through all this information and make better decisions. So I do think, and the information environment, unfortunately, is preys on our primitive brains. They love to trigger us. They love to, it's all about just triggering people. So they want to and the outrage machine. That's what it's all about. Take a breath. That's the other thing I tell people. Just take a breath. Don't share when you're outraged. Walk away, because it's when you're outraged, and then when you dig a little deeper, you realize maybe it's not even true.
Right.
So there's a lot of little things people could do, but, people have agency. Be humble, be open, be curious, be the scientist. Don't be the preacher, the prosecutor, or the politician. Be the scientist. Always, I want to learn more about that. Instead of, as soon as you consume it, you want to go out there and beat somebody over the head with it.
Right.
And there's a lot of little things that we can all do to make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, you've said so many wonderful things here today, and you've given so much information, valuable information. My last question for you is, do you have any advice for people who are interested in a career in PR?
Be curious. Write. Even if you don't want to go into public relations, the ability to sit in a 2-hour meeting and write a short memo summarizing it will serve you well. So the ability to write is key. The other thing is learn how to take things from different domains and put them together. There's a famous strategist, John Boyd, who talked about building snowmobiles. And he talked about this, he used this analogy of, you see a bicycle, you see a set of skis and a lawnmower. 3 different distinct things that have nothing to do with. But in your mind, if you can build a snowmobile and see different things in different domains, I think a lot of people think creativity is the ability to do interesting things with words and pictures.
Right.
And that certainly is creativity. I think creativity is to see things people don't. And I think if people could learn how to do that and just open their minds up to seeing things, how things are connected, and maybe things that maybe shouldn't be connected, but maybe really are. So that curiosity, writing, understanding how domains, things in different domains can come together. Be a student of the news, be a student of the world. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Be a team player. Life is a team sport.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, if you don't know life's a team sport, you're in trouble. The people that win are the ones with the most alliances, the most partners. And I mentioned John Boyd. He would always talk about, from a military standpoint, you want to isolate your enemy. You want to isolate them, whereas you want to build your alliances. So, I think as a PR person, you want to, join organizations, develop mentors, create a kitchen cabinet, identify people in your life from different domains who you could turn to for questions and answers, and people you can just turn to. And also that returns the favor. Become a mentor. Become part of other people's kitchen cabinets. Be a leader. So those are just some ideas.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mike. You've given us so much amazing knowledge and so many great tidbits and stories, and we appreciate you, and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem.
Don't forget to subscribe whenever you listen to your podcast so you never miss an episode. And leave us a review. Until next time, keep those mugs filled and those ideas flowing.